You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. I don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Oh, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to Time for Hemp all around the world on whatever platform you happen to find us on, BitChute, Rumbler, or maybe even YouTube. Please like and share us with your friends. That's how we get found. Today on the program, we have, of course, as the official joint host, Al Byrne on the program. And joining us as well is Al Graham, our associate joint host and editor and program technology supervisor. Gentlemen, thank you for being on our program.
Hey, it's great to be here, Casper. It's great to be here.
And Al Byrne brought us a great guest today, Tony Landry. Al, why don't you introduce Tony for us?
Sure. And I really appreciate being minimized as just co-host, because you're throwing titles out tonight.
Actually, you're the official joint host.
Joint host, yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, my guest today is a guy that I've known for quite a while. We've worked in a different setting than this. Tony is from Louisiana, and frankly, I'm a northern boy, and Louisiana was, not some place I've ever thought about visiting. And then I ended up with one of my senior assistants in Vietnam was an officer from Louisiana. And I came to greatly admire him personally and the way he lived his life and how his neighbors and he thought about things. They're farmers. And changed my whole mind about Louisiana. And then I met another guy named Etienne Fontaine, if anybody knows Etienne, and another great Louisiana guy. And then I met Tony Landry, and I thought, God damn, this Louisiana place is shaping up. So I'm still a Yankee out of place down there, but Tony is an expert, and I give him more credit than he will acknowledge, but he's wrong and I'm right. He's a great spokesperson for the cannabis plant. He's a standard bearer for veterans, demonstrating great tenacity and thought and wisdom in addressing the legislatives of that state of Louisiana. And he has become very, very, very well known and respected for what he's done and what he knows. Then the next thing I know is he branches out one day and he says, "Hey, I'm into mushrooms." I'm like, "Really?"
Hey.
Well, hell, we're all into mushrooms, but but he's serious about it. I just eat them, But Tony's going to tell us about being a veteran. He's going to tell us about Louisiana and the cannabis laws, which are pretty interesting to me. And then his success with bringing mushroom education to the state.
Nice.
So the last name is Landry, Tony Landry. If we can bring him in here, Al. Hey, yeah.
Hey, Tony.
This man in public without a really cool hat. I mean, even in the Senate House, he'll take it off him, but outside on the steps when he's got the. I'm telling you, man, the guy knows hats. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Al. Hey, thanks for that wonderful introduction. And I'm honored to be here amongst y'all because all of you outstanding in your field. So I'm honored to be a guest on this show. Al and Casper.
Well, I understand that there might be some unique laws to your state, but the only thing I know about Louisiana is that gators got your granny, poke salad Annie. That's all I know about Louisiana.
Plenty of gators down here, that's for sure.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, plenty of them.
So what are the laws like there in Louisiana for cannabis?
Well, we do have a medical cannabis law. We, myself and a few other, well, many people through the years advocated for cannabis, but we were fortunate, myself and a few other vets testified to get a chronic pain bill out of the House committee, Health and Welfare Committee back in 2018. And so it took about a year before they got cannabis products on the shelf, but I'm very grateful to have access to medical cannabis in Louisiana. We were able to get a home grow bill out of committee this past session this year,
Nice.
which is another milestone, but it failed on the floor in the House. It didn't get brought up again for a vote, but getting it out of committee, in the south part of the United States is a big plus. So hopefully the next session, we have a home grow rally planned for April 14th, 2025. And so we're going to hopefully push that issue again and get home grow down here.
So if you don't have homegrown, but you do have medical cannabis, do you have dispensaries there that make sales, or do they have to go across state lines, or how do they get it?
Well, we do have dispensaries. In fact, one here in my hometown, or not my hometown, but where I'm at now in Lafayette, Louisiana. There's dispensaries there. There's I guess 30 licenses out there that there was 10 medical districts in the state, and they gave 3 licenses to each district, and not all districts have all 3 dispensaries open yet. They had some issues where they had to have a certain amount of patients before they could open a new dispensary. So that's what's happening right now. As dispensaries get their 3,500 patients registered at that dispensary, then they can go and open a second location and a third.
Wow.
For a lot of patients, being able to grow is important. It's part of their therapeutic benefits that come from growing their own. Now you mentioned homegrown there, so you can't grow your own cannabis there. No. What seems to be the resistance of allowing patients to grow their own medicine?
It's there's nothing really down on paper saying, hey, it's because of this, but I suspect there's a lot of pushback from the medical cannabis industry. That we have 2 growers in the whole state, which it's not a monopoly, but come on, it's like a duopoly. So there's only two growers, and then these 10 people that own the dispensary licenses. So they want to get their money back. They want to make the money back on their investments and all. So that's kind of what I get attributed it to. And then of course the alcohol industry, they don't want medical marijuana either.
No.
They tried to shut down our hemp industry this past session. They had a bill that was going to ban THC in hemp products. So it's just deep South. It's you have to go to the Capitol and just push, because if you don't, nothing ever going to happen. Right? So
right. Exactly. That's how you make change, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that used to frustrate Jack Hare when I was working with him way back in the day when it came to working for legalization was he understood that growers would donate to his cause, but he also understood that growers lobbied not to have it legal, because as long as it was outlawed, they made a whole lot of change. You know, they could sell it on the black market for a whole lot more money than they ever could when it became legal. People were growing their own, and they had other people legally growing it. Mm-hmm. And so it is odd, the bedfellows that come together on keeping this plant outlawed. It really is strange that people are fighting for this. But in all honesty, it is one of the best things for medicine and one of the best things for the human body. But still, so many people want to keep it outlawed, even the ones who say they want to make it legal.
Right.
Yeah, I know, but I think that people have different opinions on what legal cannabis is. Like when we legalized here in Canada, there were some people who looked at it as legal, should be as legal and free to grow as tomatoes and be able to sell your tomatoes and your cannabis at a farmer's market. Whereas other people looked at cannabis as being something that is only sold in the stores and people can't even grow it. You know, people look at it that way as well. Well, it's a big wide spectrum for sure.
How did you get involved, Tony, with legalizing cannabis as an activist? I mean, you know, we all, when we smoke it at home, and we hear the police coming, we wish we could say it's legal. But when did you first start getting out publicly and announcing that you were a pot smoker and we need to end this prohibition in your state? When did you get busy doing that?
Well, actually, it happened by accident. I got out of the military with some non-combat related injuries and went to work on copy machines. And after 3 years of lifting copiers and all and doing that, my back injuries got worse, and I had to have a couple back surgeries. So I went through this cycle of the opiates, and when you take opiates long enough, they quit working. You build tolerance to them, and so after that tolerance built, then I started drinking a lot, and then that wasn't working for me. So eventually I came across some hemp CBD oil, and I started taking that because I got off the opiates. I was just using ibuprofen and aspirin and stuff, but it was, messing with my stomach. So I started taking hemp CBD oil, and I was like, wow, it took a couple of weeks now before my endocannabinoid system got tanked up ready and was working right. But after 2 weeks, I noticed I'm not taking I'd carry BC powders in my pocket, and sometimes they would go in the washing machine. I wouldn't take them out, and I'd wash them. And so after a while, it's like, wait a minute, I'm not even taking these as much as I used to. And I said, this hemp's working. So I went to the Capitol in Baton Rouge, and somebody invited me there. I created this group, Louisiana Veterans for Medical Cannabis, and I got invited to the Capitol and at a lobby day, cannabis lobby day, and I just caught the bug after that. The following year, I just started, putting out information and my group, and then going to the Capitol and testifying. I was even in Arizona one time and lived in Arizona. After we got the chronic pain bill passed, we still didn't have product, and I had an opportunity to move to Arizona. So I moved out there and became a medical cannabis patient in Arizona and started advocating over there in Phoenix. I was executive director of Southern Arizona NORML, and we went to the Capitol and tried to change it. We actually were successful in getting, in 2020, we got the adult use cannabis passed down there in Arizona. Nice. But it just kind of one thing led to another, and that's where I met Al and some of the Veterans Action Council members down there while I was in Arizona. Joined up with Veterans Action Council and been to DC a couple times, working on cannabis policy reform, but just kind of caught the bug after that.
I've got a square piece of hemp cloth that has the AZ NORML logo on it. I lived in Arizona as well. I lived in Phoenix for about 8 weeks. I hated it. Moved to Tucson. And when I was in Tucson, I got a chance to meet Andrew Weil, which is pretty cool. And
that is cool.
I used to work with the AZ NORML team when I lived down there in Arizona. So I do appreciate that state. It's a beautiful state. Even during monsoon season, it's a beautiful state.
Yes.
Tony, you sound like a lot of us cannabis patient advocates. We know the difference the benefits of cannabis, and we just can't shut up.
Let me tell an Arizona story to let people understand how difficult that law becoming valid was. We ran Patients at a Time conference there in Tucson in 2012, I think it was. And so 12 years ago, our co-sponsors were the University of Arizona Medical School, University of Arizona Nursing School, and Dr. Andy Weil's School for what they call integrative holistic medicine down there. Says what it is. It's holistic. It's integrative. They use Eastern, Western. They put it together, and it was at the time, still is, was the showcase, the first such thing that Dr. Weil pulled off. Now he's being imitated all over the place. It's good for all of us. Anyway,
right.
Those were the three sponsors, and everything went well. 3-4 months into it, and all of a sudden I got an email from the head attorney of the University of Arizona's complex, the whole thing. And it simply said other things, but basically what it said is she had made a decision that based on the fact that this conference was dealing with cannabis, that it could not be held on the grounds of the University of Arizona, and it certainly couldn't be sponsored by the University of Arizona. And by the way, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. See ya.
Oh,
this is a true story. So, I've got guests coming from Europe and all over the South America, and everything's being planned and money has been spent. And anyway, so I called up, you might explain, understand. I called up the dean of the medical school. I called up the dean of the nursing school. And I called Dr. Weil, Andy Weil. He's a buddy of mine. And what the fuck? Well, before her vacation was over, all of that had gone away. But it was real that somebody at that level in Arizona, it was going to overcome having an accredited conference by the AMA and the ANA, we're not going to have that kind of knowledge put in our university system. So what I'm saying is that's what I ran into. I think our conference did a great thing in Arizona because I understood when we left, a group of 40 or 50 Arizona doctors got together and did something that worked really well. So I think that we helped, get the ball rolling and put the information there that people could use, like Tony later on, to generate the right stuff. So anyway, I'm just saying that's Arizona, man. Having that law passed by a guy like this and his friends, staggeringly good.
Well, I can tell you when I hear stories like that and other parts of history of this plant, I'm always baffled because these are supposed to be places where you go to learn about things.
Yeah.
And when they say they don't want this knowledge in their library and they don't want this knowledge available to their students, you just scratch your heads and wonder, what are you doing? How do you call yourself a university? How do you actually tell people that you are a place to come to learn the truth?
Yeah, well, let me make clear here. We heard from the legal people. All right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I never heard from the administration or the president of the university or anything like that. We never got anything like that from that side of the house, if you will.
Yeah.
But this broad was just broad. And she said, I'm going to throw my female power around and screw the world. And by the way, I'm going on vacation. Fuck you. Well, she lost, but it was that sort of thing that when you talk, there's lawyers, and these fucking lawyers are full of the legislature. So to my mind, she was sort of reflecting the overwhelming majority of all them damn lawyers sitting there in Phoenix.
Well, it It is good to see that after all this time, you've managed to just let that go and no longer be bitter about it.
Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab my Georgia.
Well, the way I put it in my book, I'm sorry, Tony. I ran into a broad down there at the university. It didn't have any balls.
Well, the only women I know don't have balls.
Okay, what you got there, Tony?
I had to charge, put my phone on the charger. I wasn't expecting to use this thing earlier.
Right. Yes.
And if you see me disappear, it's that puppy that has to be controlled more than them.
Oh, you
So if you see me
puppy,
disappear, it's because I had a really good hit and I'm coughing. That's all.
Yeah, the puppy was really here and went away. You saw true.
Mine's outside. That's why I disappeared. The animals, you know, they always
back
gotta
to
be
the
in there.
host, the guest here. What are you drinking, Tony?
Oh,
What is that stuff?
this is it's called Drifty. It's a 5 milligram THC beverage.
Oh, cool.
By Urban South. My son actually brews these. He owns a brewery, Urban South Brewery in New Orleans, and he started getting into the hemp THC beverage business. And this is one of the very popular ones. It's 0 calories. It's just 5 milligrams THC. So I love it when, like, if I'm fasting or something, I don't want the extra calories. They have some drinks, THC drinks with 100 calories or more in it. So that's why I prefer his.
Is there a limit to the amount of THC that could be in that beverage, or?
There is, Al. There was a limit, but this past session when they tried to kill the hemp industry completely, and that was one of the trade-offs. They said, okay, well, we have a 50 milligram THC beverage just brewed in Louisiana, but that's going to be by January 1st. You won't be able to have that anymore.
Wow.
Now there is a lawsuit right now. Hemp industry is suing the state because they, invested all this money into the hemp business, and these beverages, by reducing them, they're going to cut into their business. So they have, so they're going to, because you can order this hemp THC stuff online, in the United States. You can get it over across state lines. So
I guess because of the farm bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
2018 Farm Bill.
You should have your son consider being a sponsor for it. Time for Hemp.
Right.
But now you said that the hemp industry filed a lawsuit. Who the hell is the hemp industry?
Yeah,
Is there an association?
The hemp industry in Louisiana Hemp Association, that several hemp growers got together and they filed a lawsuit against the state, or they did file a lawsuit against the state of Louisiana because, there was like 8 milligrams, but you could have as many servings in a can. That's how they got away with the 50 milligram. They said, well, there's 8 milligram per serving, but the fifth, whatever, 8 times 5, there's 5 servings in that can, something.
So what, are they just a group of people who came together for this? Are they just a group of people who came together for this particular lawsuit, or are they an organization?
There's some hemp growers. I think it's Cypress Hemp is one of the companies that grows hemp and has products, CBD oil and all. But there is an association of all the growers that's joined in with the lawsuit as well. So
good.
Okay.
Yeah. More people
so
to speak up.
Can you sell gummies?
Background.
Stuff like that?
Yeah.
A little background, Tony. I was curious because I walk around folks and they say, well, Al, you've been doing this a long time. How's it going to end up? And I say, it's a plant. Sooner or later, it's going to be in the agriculture department. Believe it or not, I think I'm right. Anyway, so then we get to Louisiana. So let Tony tell you how wrong I am.
Yeah, we're struggling down here. With the hemp bill that they representative from senator from North Louisiana put in this past session called for zero. You could sell the CBD and all that, but it had to be zero THC. So it's like, well, the plant naturally has THC in it. How can you grow it and not have any THC at all?
Yeah.
So thankfully that bill got shot down. But it's just about the intoxicating. That's what the author of the bill was like. We're trying to stop these intoxicating hemp products being sold at gas stations. But when you go in a gas station, you got these little airport bottles of alcohol, like right there at the counter where a kid.
Yeah,
I got a photo. I got a photo of a bin that's on the candy aisle at the end of the candy aisle in a gas station down here with the 99 proof little airport bottles, a whole stack of them right there next to the candy. So it's their logic about intoxicating. If you really want to go after something, go after alcohol. If you don't want people to be intoxicated, that's the thing that's messing people's lives up the most. You go after the most thing.
What I wanted you to talk about, what I found interesting in Louisiana is what Tony's talking about now. You see, I'm talking about lawyers, legislators, lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a couple of years ago that in Louisiana, when I think most of the positive work was done, was that Louisiana's cannabis plant was controlled by the Department of Agriculture, as I believe. And it has only been when we've shifted the emphasis in Louisiana back to the goddamn lawyers.
And it is an
right about this, aren't it, Tony?
Yes, absolutely. LSU was actually LSU and Southern University, historic Black university, had the only two licensed, had control. They weren't actually growing cannabis because then they would lose their federal education dollars and all because it's Schedule 1. But they had the licenses issued to them, and then they contracted out with Good Day Farms and Ilera out of Pennsylvania, I believe. So, yeah, we did start the medical program. It was supposed to be about the plant and studying the plant and all that, but none of that happened. And now they've taken the licenses away from the universities and just issued them straight to the two growers. So it was I think it was just a ploy to get the program, to make it sound like, oh, this is all about health, but now it's just all about money because we only have two growers with 4.5 million people in the state. It's like
yeah, exactly.
So
Why
do
only
you have to have a medical cannabis card in order to be able to make your purchases? If you get pulled over by the police and have cannabis on you, do they arrest you? Do they take you in? Do you present a card? If you don't have a card, are you okay? How's all that working?
Well, Louisiana doesn't have a hard card, or a digital card. But what we do is we get our doctor to call the dispensary, and they just like a regular pharmaceutical drug. The doctor, medical cannabis doctor, will call the dispensary and put your recommendation in at whatever dispensary you choose. Now, if you want to go to another dispensary, you got to transfer your recommendation to the other dispensary. It's not like you get a card and you can go in and out of whatever dispensary you want.
What do you use as presentation to a police officer? Because that, just having your doctor call the dispensary doesn't give you proof to a police officer. Right.
Well, when you get your medical cannabis from the dispensary, it's going to have your name on the package. It's going to have all your information going to be on the package.
Wow.
Now,
just like a prescription drug you get from the pharmacy.
Now, if you get caught, because what a lot of people are doing, because the prices, we're paying like $60 for an eighth of cannabis. Ooh. Yes, sir. So a lot of people, what they'll do, they'll get the recommendation because it's a 14 grams or less is $100 ticket out in town. If you don't have the recommended cannabis recommendation or the package that your cannabis is in, like if I take a joint and put it in my pocket, anyway, I have a recommendation. If I get stopped out in town, $100 ticket. So you have to. What's happening? What I think's happening a lot and that, well, people were actually saying it on Reddit and stuff, how they get the recommendation as a protection. They cost $60 for a year. So that's cheaper than $100 ticket every time you go out in town. So they get the recommendation, and then they just use their own, the regular plug, whatever they, normally get their cannabis from the street, and they cover it. They'll get one package. They'll go to the dispensary and make a purchase, get one packet, and then they'll put their cannabis, illicit, non-tax cannabis, they'll put in a bag.
They must be listening to our government, because our government says the same thing. Oh, they're just trying to just get the licenses to go around things.
Yeah. That's been the story in Arizona too.
One thing I'd be doing as a senior citizen at this point, if I had to go see a happy ass doctor and have that clown call into a dispensary and me march my ass up there to get $60 for an eighth, excuse me, I want Medicare to cover this shit.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So does Medicare cover any of that? Does Medicare cover your doctor visit at least, or what?
No, sir, it won't cover that. And then the medical cannabis recommendation, you have doctors that actually bought a brick and mortar building, have staff, nurses on hand, and pay $30,000, $40,000 a year in overhead to run medical cannabis practice. And then they were charging like $100, $150 when the program first started. And now those prices have come down to maybe $60 for the 1 year recommendation. But then you'll have like Good Day Farms right now, who's given a free recommendation, because they have dispensaries in Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. So if they got, and the doctor doesn't have to be in Louisiana to give you a recommendation. So they can have one doctor to cover, all those states, and they give free recommendations. But what it's doing is, it's just,
it's free if you buy your product.
How do you compete? Yeah, how do you compete with that if you're a doctor and you've got a brick and mortar building, you're trying to give recommendations for patients? How do you compete with free? So there's some issues right with that, with the medical cannabis. So, but it's just
they like, as far as your grammage, is there a limit on the amount of grams that a patient can have?
Yes, there is. There's, I think it's 2 ounces every 2 weeks, or I don't know. Like I said, I'm just in and out of the program. I'm not using it full time. Okay. Full time, because it's just not, it's not right now. I'm not paying those kind of prices. I was in it initially, and I was spending $1,000 a month just with like 3 grams, and some tincture. Every couple of days, I was using, I had it all figured out, written how much I use, and I was like, I can't spend $1,000 a month on weed.
I know. I'm just adding all that in my head and thinking the same thing. Like, holy crap, that's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a house note.
Yeah, like, wow, to get an ounce, even, just that's ridiculous. So
that's why we pushing for home grow, and then the caregivers program, where if you're elderly and living in assisted living, you can't grow weed in there, so you should be able to still have somebody grow it for you instead of going through these the 2 growers.
The designated grower, like you say, a caregiver.
Caregiver grows for 10 patients or something in a small barn or something at his house. We need to have that in Louisiana too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All righty. Where should we go next, guys? Do we want to find out? You mentioned about your Veteran Action Council, that you're involved with that.
The VAC is formed up in 2020. When I was in Arizona, I worked with these guys, and we said, let's all join our heads, because we all bring something from a different part of the country. We'll get together and meet. We meet Mondays, Wednesdays, and every other week on either a Thursday night, which is a buddy check-in. We do. We come into the room, and we take care of the little bit of business agenda, whatever we're working on, and then we'll turn off the recording. We'll just do a buddy check-in with everybody, telling what's going on. Like I was talking about.
Is that what this is here that I'm showing on the screen?
This is my mushroom journey. I kind of branched off with the cannabis. In between the sessions, there wasn't a lot of cannabis work to do, so I said, well, let me. When I was in Arizona, I learned how to grow mushrooms, gourmet blue oyster mushrooms and stuff. So when I came down to Louisiana, no one really was doing much of this. So I said, well, let me start this Swamp Spore Society. What I did, I asked AI what a good name for a mushroom group in Louisiana was, and he gave me a list of about 10 names, and I posted them on Reddit, and I asked everybody to vote on them. And this Swamp Spore, it was a Swamp Spore Alliance, but we decided in our first meeting, I reserved some space in the library, and I had a demonstration. I just had all my mushroom gear. Everybody came, and I said, well, hey, if we started a mushroom club, would y'all like that? Yeah, a few of them raised their hand. Yeah. Okay, so that's when I said, well, let me figure out a name for it. So I got the Swamp Spore Alliance, but at our first meeting, we actually a mushroom grower who has a all caps mushroom business in Louisiana. He kind of partnered with me and said, yeah, this is good. So he sells these all-in-one grow bags, and where you can just inject your spores right into this plug, spray a little alcohol on it and sterilize it, and inject your spores in it, and you have your grain right in the bottom of the bag. So,
wow, and you just grow your mushrooms in that bag.
Right there in the bag. It's the simplest thing out. It's like anybody can do. They say it's so simple, a caveman can do it.
Wow.
And are they psychedelic mushrooms?
Yes. We have a law in Louisiana that now in the Swamp Spore Society, Casper, I don't need the heat. I don't need to bring the heat down on me. So we grow blue oyster mushrooms. But once you learn the knowledge of growing mushrooms, you can grow any kind. You can go out in the yard and pick a mushroom and bring it in and put a little piece of it on one of these agar plates. I've done it. I went to Whole Foods and got some lion's mane. I came in and you work in what they call a still air box. It's just a box. You flip it over and you work inside these holes in there where you don't get a lot of mold and stuff floating around. Because when you open this up, if I opened it in this room right now, tomorrow it'd be all green and just nasty looking because it's full of mold and mildew in the air, right?
Right.
So we that's what we do at the Swamp Spore Society. I bring 3 or 4 of those tubs and set them up in there. But yeah, the spores we can order. These are all psilocybe mushroom spores, penis envy.
Bring that back up again. Bring that back up again.
Yeah, these are from Spore Works. It's
Alrighty.
It's all, you can't really read the labels, but they're all and now I inoculated some jars with these psilocybe mushrooms, and they're just starting to make these jars myself. Get just some new wide mouth quart jars, and I bought 2 holes in there with a Phillips screwdriver. And I wipe it with alcohol and I stick the air patch. You got mushrooms breathe air, oxygen. So you have to have an air transfer patch with a micropore just to let air in, not the mold. And then this other right here is just a self-sealing port. You put the mushroom spore syringe right into this port right here. You spray it with alcohol and you inject it in here.
So is that like a steel needle that goes through the cover there? Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right.
It's a regular
So you
needle.
don't even open it up to put it in there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now after you go into the jar with it, when it's new, it's okay. You can spray it with alcohol and go into there. But then after you use it once, you take a little mini torch and you burn this needle to where it's glowing red, and then you sterilize it. Then you can go into the next jar.
Oh, so you got to sterilize it in between each one that you do?
Each time. Now, this jar is fully colonized. This is a grain jar that got, now this one I just opened the lid inside the steel air box. This is an old, I put some tape, this micropore. You can buy this at any kind of drugstore, to tape. But this jar here, what I would do next would be take it and put it in some cocoa coir which is on the top of this bag right here. But this is all sterilized already. See, I have to take the Coca-Cola and the brick, this brick right here, and put it in a 5-gallon bucket with boiler water and let it pasteurize. You know, it kills all any kind of mold. But this is all done already for you. It's all the mushroom guy, all caps, my friend Michael, he sterilizes all this together. So it's like a simple, and then there's your air patch up here. You see, you got a little, and these are some B plus. So
you got a patent on this stuff?
A what?
You got a patent on that process yet? No. You should, man. Somebody will grab it and make some money.
Well, these bags, you can order these bags from a lot of different mushroom shops. Now that Colorado and then I think it's Oregon, it has legal psilocybin retreat centers, and they decriminalize growing it. Massachusetts just they had a good deal over there in Massachusetts. You could grow much as you want in a 10 by 10 room in your house, psilocybin, but the bill didn't pass. I don't know what happened there, but didn't pass.
Yeah, because that bill included ibogaine and mezcal, something.
Yeah, probably San Pedro. The San Pedro cactus is one molecule off of peyote, which is a protected cactus. But the San Pedro, which it's just that long, looks like an arm cactus. You can get them at Home Depot. It'll it has hallucinogenic properties in it. So, and it's just
you get it at Home Depot.
Yes, San Pedro. Oh, in Arizona, they grow it everywhere, in people's yard, everywhere.
Does Home Depot know this?
Probably do. I'm sure get plenty of requests, I'm sure.
There'll be a rush in Canadian Home Depots tomorrow.
Yeah. Everybody
want to grow cactus.
Yeah, when I was in Arizona, I went to 2019 psychedelic conference in Phoenix, and it just blew my mind opening, because living in Louisiana is pretty sheltered, especially South Louisiana. It's not, everybody's scared to do anything. So there's nothing like that going on. So when I moved out to Arizona, I said, well, a psychedelic conference, I don't know anything about that. Let me go check it out. So I went and learned about ayahuasca and ibogaine and peyote and San Pedro and all those hallucinogenic plants. They had a lot of great speakers, and actually I went to an ayahuasca ceremony after that, and it killed my cravings for beer overnight. I was drinking heavy back in Arizona too. I went, drank that ayahuasca. The next morning, you get up, you go back to your house, and I had 3 beers in the icebox. I opened them up, poured them all down, and I didn't drink it again for like 3 years. It wasn't until I moved back to Louisiana down here, went through a divorce and got back connected up with old friends and that. And I said, well, let me just drink 1 or 2. I ended up going back to Arizona to ayahuasca not long after that, because when you have like alcohol, addiction or something, I don't know what it is, but you can't, you just have to abstain. And so it's good to get a little tune up with the psychedelic medicine once a year or something, just to kind of keep you fresh,
Now, a friend of mine, she's actually a host on the Pace Radio Network. She just got back from a conference out in British Columbia, Spirit Plant Conference. So do you travel around to the different conferences and things to talk to people, or?
No, I have. I went to gosh, it's been a few years now, but a conference out in Virginia, and spoke at one conference on psychedelics. It was addiction and psychedelic awareness or something, my speech, and I just talked about how
there's a lot of people who are turning to them, to deal with anxiety, mental health issues, depression, and that. So
depression.
When you took ayahuasca, did you find your third eye? Did you talk to the little creatures on the other eye and meet all the little men and angels and all the three-dimensional beings that people talk about when they do ayahuasca?
No, I didn't see any Casper. And back when I lived in Arizona, I was smoking cannabis a lot. And you're supposed to quit cannabis like 30 days before you go into that. So when I went back the second time, when I moved back here, I flew back to Tucson for a ceremony. And the excellent AYA guide, GUIDE, AYA guide. If you Google that, you'll find the people that do these ceremonies in Tucson. Excellent group. I've been to dozens of ceremonies, but when the time I went back, I actually saw green ones and zeros on the edges of the beams up, and I saw, I think, a snake or something, but no little green machine elves or anything like that.
You mentioned
you didn't open up your third eye?
Not that much.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned you couldn't consume any cannabis for 30 days. My understanding, when you're doing the ayahuasca, you also have to. There's also a diet as well, food diet intake, things that you have to take, things that you can't take. Some of those things are healthy, even healthy foods that you're not supposed to take.
There is a diet, they call it. That. I mean, the whole process, you kind of have to set intentions and start. I want to go work on this for myself. Whatever you're going through, depression, I want to go clean this up. So you start the thought process in your brain, I think, what's happening. So whenever you get the medicine, it actually builds. It's a it generates nerve endings and stuff. The psychedelic medicine, so it forms a new pathway to what I've envisioned. Like when you're born, all your synapses are fired, but every time you get shot at or beat up, they go like this. So when you take the medicine, it kind of opens that up and lets everything start connecting again. And that's the way I see it.
I'll tell you, my mushroom story was psilocybin, and I had what they call cluster headaches, which are very, very terrible migraines, and they simply come at you in clusters. And I would describe the pain as somebody takes a rather large knife, sticks it in your eye, and twists it around forever.
Oh, geez.
They put me on all kinds of little things that they tried. I carried an oxygen bottle with me for 20 years. Because taking that as I followed the aura of the headaches coming on seemed to sometimes help. So, anything goes. And then a guy I was working with, you'll recognize the name, Ethan Russo, a doctor, a cohort of mine, and a fellow golden retriever owner. We have all sorts of connections. He knew of my problem. And he called me one day and he said, I think I got a solution for you. He's an amateur botanist on a world-class scale. And he had come across this idea of mushrooms. It's back now. We're talking 1990 or something. World-class idea about using mushrooms to stop these terrible migraines. And what he recommended is get the psilocybin. I did so. They were fresh. They were Virginia psilocybin, because it means everything. And he said, as soon as you feel that aura coming on of that headache going to bang your ass, you get those things, chew them up, not a lot. It was a couple of buttons and a couple of stems, and chew them up real good and take it with grapefruit juice. He thought the acid would release the molecules or something quicker. And God damn it worked. And nice. I did once. And I haven't had a migraine headache since 1990. Now, to even further the story, I told Ethan, I said, it worked. He said, great. He called me back a couple of weeks, months later. And he said, hey, you got any more of those mushrooms? I do. He said, could you send them out to a colleague of mine in Missoula, Montana, where he lived and worked at the time? And I said, sure. And I did so. And then it was an MD buddy of hers. And she called me and said, I got your mushrooms. Thank you. What do I do with them? I said, well, this is what Ethan told me. Here's what I did. And she called me back a couple of time later, and she said, "Damn, I tried it out and it didn't work. I got a headache." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, man. All I can say is try it again. It fucking worked."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She tried it again and it worked. And I have not communicated with her for about 5 years. But that whole period of time, she didn't get another headache either. So what Tony's talking about is undoing synapses that are crooked and straighten them out and building a new one or whatever the hell it does up there. And to me, it's another potential health benefit that's harmless, like cannabis.
Right.
Taken correctly in the right environment, et cetera, the mushroom can do you no harm and maybe help somebody like me. I mean, it changed my life in a way positive thing. It's worth a shot. So, Tony, what you're doing, your education, one of the reasons I wanted you to talk to us tonight and the audience to say, hey, this is good stuff. And so thank you for doing that.
Well, that brings me to this question. George Harrison, for those who don't know, he was part of Paul McCartney's first boy band called the Beatles. George Harrison once stated that he recommended doing psychedelics 3 times. The first time to learn the psychedelic, the second time to learn yourself, and the third time to learn the universe. But after that, there's no need in taking them. Now, my question to you, Tony, is that true? And when a person takes mushrooms, are they like hallucinating and they're not able to drive? They're not able, when they look at the TV, it melts. When they go to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee, they can't find the cup, let alone the coffee.
Yeah, I've talked to someone in Arizona who took there's different doses. There's a micro dose, which is like 1/10 of a heroic dose, and then in between there's a recreational dose where you just the micro dose is not supposed to be perceptual. You just kind of, your phone might be a little brighter, you're in a little better mood. Then the recreational dose might be like 1 gram of dried mushroom. It's just going to put you in a slight drunk type feeling or intoxicated feeling. And then the heroic dose, you want to be in the right setting and not be upset and angry or anything. Just go into it with good intentions and take the medicine and be in a quiet, dark area with some maybe some shades over your eyes and some light music. And it's best if you have no experience at all not to do that alone, to have somebody with you, But someone who takes it like all the time, I knew a guy in Arizona, and he told me he took like 30 days. He took the heroic dose, 30 days in a row, and he said it causes like you never get off the trip after that. Took him forever to not feel the effects of those mushrooms. It's there's a syndrome. I'm not sure what the name of it is, Casper, but there is something that you can take too much mushrooms for too long, and it'll lock you into that high or intoxicated feeling. So yeah, I would say take it not like even mushrooms. You're supposed to take like 3 days on and then a couple of days off because you build tolerance to it. So you want to just you don't want to use it every day. And it, actually, I don't think there's anybody who ever took mushrooms like tonight and woke up in the next morning jonesing for mushrooms, being like, yeah, I got to get some more of that.
No. Those micro doses, my understanding, they could be as low as like 20 milligrams of mushrooms up to about 150 milligrams, somewhere around there. Get it? I know around here, I know a lady that's her. She goes around to different events and she sells all kinds of psilocybin infused baked goods, chocolates and stuff like that. And it's very popular.
I asked because it was one thing when I was younger and I didn't have any crisis in my life at that point to drop acid or to take meth or to eat mushrooms or to do any type of psychedelic, and I'd have a good time. But now that I'm nearly 100, I've been through a handful of things that I don't want to focus on while I'm tripping.
Well, like Tony said, do the low dose, do the micro dosing. and it can sort of calm the mind. There's the sort of a reset, like the reconnection of those, like, as you mentioned, the circuits within our brains, and just doing a microdose can be beneficial to people.
Yes, Paul
And not get you stoned.
Paul Stamets has a stack because psilocybin is a vasoconstrictor. So that's why you get cold when you take just psilocybin. Sometimes you get cold and chills because it's constricting your vein. So he takes niacin, dose 50 milligram dose of niacin, which is a vasodilator, and then he takes lion's mane, which lion's mane mushroom repairs the nerve, the dead. See what happened? The mycelium sheet around your nerve, it starts fading away, dying, and then the nerve starts dying. So the lion's mane rebuilds that, and the psilocybin rebuilds the nerve. So you take all three together, and they work great together. Because Paul Stamets, there's some YouTube videos explaining that how he does that. But
well, that's the same symptom of multiple sclerosis.
And dementia and all, you know.
Yeah, but I mean the coating around the nerve, it starts to deteriorate.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we found that cannabis helps to rebuild it. But you're saying that psilocybin also may help to rebuild it, or does?
The lion's mane will repair the sheath around the nerve. The psilocybin is a neurogenic.
Okay.
So they work together.
Okay.
Call it a stack. Paul Stamets stack.
Yeah, because cannabis is known as it does a little bit of nerve regeneration, but it also is a nerve protectorant.
Yes.
So I can see where the two could come together very successfully. And again, no side effects really, not from the cannabis anyway. That was one of the federal patients that I worked with. She's now gone, Barbara Douglas. That she had MS. And she was issued this shitty U.S. cannabis, but she used it. And when I first met Barbara, she was in a wheelchair, and so where she was, pretty much in a wheelchair. And by the time I saw her again, a year after using medical cannabis, she was on a jet ski on the lake.
Wow. Wonderful.
Oh. So
I believe you had her on. I believe you had her on as a guest on Patients at a Time a couple of times.
Oh yeah, well yes, I interviewed her on Time for Hemp, Patients at a Time, and we had her speak at our live conferences a couple of times. So we were lucky enough to have not lucky enough. We had the 5 federal patients that were getting cannabis from the federal government as medicine, from the government that said it wasn't medicine. And so they became a nucleus of Patients at a Time. And I consider to this day all 5 of those people, especially at that time in our history, to be absolute heroes. They stood up as patients and said, this stuff helps me. I get it from the federal government. And I think it's awful that the federal government won't let everybody have it. Well, that takes balls. To accuse your boss of being a shithead. So
let me remind people that when you go to timeforhemp.news, you'll find that we've got a pretty good size archive. And in those archive, you will find that Al and I and other people were on the same program with each one of those patients that were part of that program, Elvie and Irv and George. And so if you're interested more about learning that, just delve into our archives and you can find them here at Time for Hemp. Now,
so
Tony, what have you looking at?
Tony, you got mushrooms going, you got cannabis education going. You got
Tony, what's this? What's this on the screen, Tony? Is this your hobby?
This isn't the mushrooms.
That is at the Lafayette Parish Library. Those rooms are free. It's free to reserve. So and then sometimes they don't even get used. So I reserve the room, and then I bring all my mushroom gear there, and then you can come and just listen and learn and talk and have conversation like a community organization. Or if you do want to grow mushrooms, we charge $25 for that jar of grain that I showed you earlier, and then that bag to the far corner is a substrate bag. So once the jar of grain gets colonized and all the grains myceliated. We take it in inside that still air box, and we open up this bag, which is sealed with the little air patch on it, and we dump the grain jar inside that bag, and then whoever they take it, I want to say student, but it's just club group member, takes that bag home. Okay, first the jar that we inoculated in one meet, we meet every 2 weeks. So the jar we inoculated on the first meeting of the month. 2 weeks later, they bring the jar in, and then we put it into that substrate bag, and they take that home, and they're done. But so I just brought all that just to kind of show the top port. That's some millet that I actually bought for my co-partner. He's a mushroom grower, and we go to natural grocers and buy this organic grain, rye grain or millet. Mushrooms grow on just about any kind of grain. So millet is one of the hardest to work with, I find, but it's one of the best ones to do to colonize, because there's a lot of surface area, a little tiny something about how the grain works. But the rye grain works pretty good too. I mean, this is ready to go to the substrate right now.
How long is it your harvest? Like you talked about putting this stuff in here and all that. How long does it take for the mushrooms to grow, or does different strains mean different lengths of time?
You talking about the decorative mushrooms or
or whatever mushrooms you're growing in that container?
I mostly just grow decorative ones. But the oyster mushrooms grow pretty quick. They a week's time it'll be all pretty much colonized. But the decorative mushrooms take a little longer. Oyster is one of the fastest growing ones. It'll double in size once it starts fruiting. You come in there in the morning and look at it, and in the afternoon you're like, wow. Really...
So you mean I can have magic mushrooms in 7 days?
Less.
Oyster mushrooms, I would say about 2 weeks, but the decorative mushrooms, that they take a little longer, because especially in the winter I have to use a seed mat. I put it inside a large container like that steel air box I showed you, just a storage container. I put all these jars inside that storage container, and I put a seed mat just leaning up against the side of the container, so that the temperature stays around 70 to 75 degrees, because these mushrooms are all warm climate mushrooms. The decorative ones, they like warm. They grow in the summertime, and our cow pastures out here down in Louisiana, if it rains and within a day or something, you go out in the cow pasture, all the cow patties will have decorative mushrooms coming off of them. So
these are not edible.
The decorative ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're actually edible in other states, but not here in Louisiana. In other states, it's still aside mushrooms, but our law has we have a hallucinogenic plant law in Louisiana. It's 989.1. Louisiana hallucinogenic plant law, and it lists psilocybe mushrooms on this law, but it says they're illegal to make chocolates with and teas and all that. But if you're growing them just for decorative purposes, it's okay. You can grow them.
What decorative purpose? Like I'm just you put them on a shelf in your living room or what?
Yeah,
beautiful.
I make headbands with them and necklaces. The plant, the law has a lot of nursery type plants. I don't know if you can read these plants, but
there you go, right? Just like that. There you go. Yeah.
See, it's got the mushrooms on there, psilocybe.
Yeah.
Number E, letter E.
And some of these names, you can find them in flower beds and all that. Some of these most of these plants are ornamental plants, but they have hallucinogenic property in them. So they did it they put the law like that so that the nurseries would still be able to sell these little pretty plants that people put in their yards and all that. And somehow the psilocybe's on there. Now I fully expect the government to come back because they see all the fun we having.
Well, let's go to nutrition.
We saw this guy on Time for Hemp.
Okay.
We want to tell everybody again that cannabis seeds provide incredible nutrition. Cannabis oil, incredible nutrition. Do mushrooms provide nutrition?
I'm not the specialist on the gourmet mushrooms as much, but all mushrooms have some medicinal value. Now, nutritional value, I can't speak to that. I'm not sure.
What's the medicinal value?
Well, the medicinal value, psilocybin, they had over 1,000 studies of psilocybin for addiction, depression, anxiety. Before 1960, whenever they started kicking, putting in 1970, got put on the Controlled Substances Act along with cannabis. So, but before that, they have different studies where they tried the Compton prison study where they gave some mushrooms to a bunch of prisoners in California, and they had a reduced recidivism rate where prisoners weren't, once they got out, they weren't going back to prison as often. So, and like you said, with the migraine headaches but
I give mushroom powder to my dogs every day. And I'm told that is a anti-cancer, possibly a preventative of cancer. Is there anything to that?
Yeah. Paul Stamets has a beautiful story about his mother having stage 4 cancer, and doctor told her, just like go home and die, and nothing we can do. And he gave her turkey tail mushrooms, and she went back in her scans, in a length of time, but she went back and it was gone. The cancer was gone. So,
wow.
Yeah. Cordyceps, a lot of medicinal properties. Cordyceps, I think it gives you energy. But they're starting to get popular. People are starting to learn more about them because first thing when you see mushrooms, you think poison mushrooms or magic mushrooms. And so people were standoffish to all of them, lion's mane and all of the mushrooms because they just had that image of danger, when they heard mushrooms. So
right, yeah.
So now,
I brought up the fact to my veterinarian about the dogs getting mushrooms, and she like, what are you talking about? But she had the same answer when I told her that I gave my dogs some cannabis every night. She just looked at me like, this is a crazy son of a bitch I got as a patient.
I know of a place that supplies mushrooms for cats and dogs.
Yeah, I can look at the container. It has turkey tail, I'm not sure, but it has 4 different types of mushroom in there.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't mean there's like this thing when you say mushrooms, everybody probably thinks psychedelic and psilocybin, but there's so many different strains that have so many benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The lion's mane for dementia and all that. There's people that have taken it and noticed right away how it improves their mental capacity. So.
Yeah.
Memory.
Well, then maybe I should take some. I'm getting close to 100. Maybe I should start doing that.
Absolutely.
Get some microdosing going on there, Casper.
Yeah.
There you go.
Time for shrooms.
There we go.
I stand corrected. It does have. It's a blend of turkey tail mushrooms, reishi mushrooms, shiitake, and maitake. I never heard of that one.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. And because this thing has other stuff in it too, but those are the 4 mushrooms that so turkey tail is what that guy used from his mom, right?
Yes, Paul Stamets.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got an excellent story on YouTube.
So are you able to drive since you take a lot of mushrooms and cannabis, or do you have to be driven around like Miss Daisy or what?
But now, just to clarify now, Casper, these are all decorative mushrooms. I don't actually take them.
Oh, okay.
Now, I have taken them in other states in my travels, in legal states.
All right.
Cannabis. I mean, it's important to like these 50 milligram, beverages. If some new user, this is just 5, but there's one that's 50. And I know I drank one day and I was like set back, like, wow, I can't imagine an inexperienced user opening up a 50 milligram can and drinking that and, be really intoxicated. So it's important to know your limits, know your dosage, low and slow with everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
We got to let you go. We're getting to the end of this, but to go back to the vets in Louisiana and your experience with them, do they use cannabis? Do they use mushrooms? And how does it go? Is it good, bad, sideways?
Yeah, the cannabis right now, it's just so unaffordable, but they're using it. They're using it, they're talking about it online and stuff, how it's helping them. And then the mushrooms too. I mean, people will get out there and talk about using mushrooms online too. I just don't, I don't need no more heat, man. I got enough, I do enough hard work. I don't need to bring heat on me,
Right.
So I just kind of watch what I say and don't, I know the law. I carry this with me all the time. I brought mushrooms to the Capitol and some dried mushrooms, in a quart jar in my backpack, walked through the security Capitol. If I'd have got stopped, I'd have just said, hey, they might contain psilocybin, but they're just decorative. I don't take them. I just use them. I wanted to take a picture of mushroom in front of the Capitol, so I brought them with me. Just gotta. But they doing. I get veterans that contact me, want to know how to grow. When they see my Swamp Spore Society, they say, "Oh man, I want to go. I want to learn how to grow." Yeah,
your education, actually, education and knowledge, and that shouldn't be anything that's against the law.
No, that's how I do. Walk a straight line.
Thank you for coming. We were all enlightened, as I thought we would be. And, again, I commend you for the work you've done down there. You've helped any number of people, probably hundreds or thousands. And that's a testament. You left something behind, dude. That's good.
That's right.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
And while we got a chance to, Al, don't forget to let people know about your book, that they can get it on Amazon.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I got the title down there for Country and Cannabis, and that's what it's about. My service in the United States Navy and a lot of cannabis stories that intertwine with that 24 years in the Navy. And then basically, the other half of the book, if you don't care about the Navy, is about how cannabis really became what it is medically now in the United States. How did that happen? Who did it? The problems, the successes, the tactics, the technicians, the idiots, and the guys in the way, and the good guys. If you're interested in medical cannabis at all, I want you to read my book, because you should know what's in it. You should know about those people, and there's a lot of stuff in that book that you don't know medically, just like you didn't know what Tony was telling you before this show started. There's a lot of information in there, and I get told all the time that people go back when they finish the book, they go back and they read it again or 2 or 3 times, because there's so much info. I think, So thanks for bringing it up. It's $25. It's on. You can get it anywhere internet. Barnes and Nobles, Apple Books, Amazon Books. It's all over the place, and. Tell your library they should have it too. That'd be nice.
And you'll find a link for it on the homepage at timeforhemp.news. So make it a point to go there as well. And when you see the cover of the book, click on it. It'll take you straight to Amazon, where you can make that purchase. Tony, too, it has been a very informative interview. I've really enjoyed having you on as a guest. Is there any closing statement that you'd like to make?
I just want to mention we're having a home grow rally on April 14th, 2025. And you can find that Facebook, have an event posted in Facebook at Louisiana Veterans for Medical Cannabis. And I'm hoping everybody in Louisiana comes support the rally, and we get home grow down here in Louisiana. And thank you all guys. Honored to be here and be a guest on your program today.
And Al Graham, I know you're up there in Cananda, and you've got Castro's kid in charge of your country. Is there anything that you want to share with our audience today?
Yes. With my 4 legal cannabis plants, I grew lots of cannabis that I'll be have lots for this year and next year. And let everybody know, tune in to paceradio.net Tuesdays at 3 p.m. And that is because the Mushy Moment is on. And that features Rev Cindy and Steve Mather. And they're always talking mushrooms. And they're always getting great guests to talk about. And I think maybe I'm going to pass along your information to them if you don't mind, Tony.
Well, thank you. Please do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'd like to remind our audience that we are here doing this work because there is still work to be done. If you would have told me when I began my journey as a cannabis activist, when Jack Hare hired me in 1989, that I would still be fighting these laws and working diligently to make cannabis hemp a viable farm product and a viable product to be using in all of our wonderful creature comforts, I wouldn't believe it, because it really makes no sense to keep it outlawed. This plant makes over 50,000 different products, from fuel to paper to fiber to it's amazing. You make plywood dynamite out of this, and yet it is still illegal. You can be growing it in your community and creating local jobs and helping our environment. Jack Hare once said, hemp can't save the world, but it's one of the plants that can help save the world. So we got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of information we want to bring to you, a lot of solutions to problems that we're facing here on the world stage. That's why we think it really is important to let the whole wide world know that it really, truly is time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look and spend some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for him. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soils. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Well, time for hemp! Yeah!
Time for Hemp is a Pace Radio Network content provider.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0000. 420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at Pace Radio.